The bold and the beautiful. A dangerous alliance. A shocking betrayal. And a scandal that could shatter everything for a brief, fragile moment. It looked like peace might actually take root in Los Angeles. After years of rivalry, sabotage, and heartbreak, Brooke Logan and Dr. Taylor Hayes, two women who have long stood on opposite sides of the Forrester family battlefield, tentatively found common ground. It wasn't friendship. It wasn't trust. But it was something that looked a lot like an armistice. With Forrester Creations under increasing pressure, from internal power plays to external media scrutiny, they agreed to work together, if only to keep the house from burning down. Brooke, ever calculating beneath the charm, opened up about her plans for Taylor's role in the company's future. Publicly, she made it sound like respect. Privately, she saw it as strategy. Taylor, smart enough to recognize when she's being managed, smiled and nodded, playing along. The air between them was tight with unspoken judgments. Still, they shook hands, stood side by side at press events, and put on the appearance of unity. But in a town like this, appearances are always the first to go. Everything changed one afternoon when Brooke, staying late at the Forrester estate to finalize designs for the spring line, wandered into the study to find her phone. What she found instead was Taylor, lingering far too close to Ridge. Her hand brushed his arm, her laughter a little too soft, too familiar. Ridge didn't recoil. He didn't pull away. He looked interested. Brooke stood frozen in the doorway, heart hammering. It wasn't just a slip in professionalism. It was calculated, intentional, a betrayal. Later that night, Brooke confronted Taylor. There was no calm voice, no diplomacy. She accused Taylor of using the company's crisis as a means to slither her way back into Ridge's life. Taylor didn't deny it. In fact, she stood her ground, defending her right to pursue what she claimed was unfinished business. Ridge, she argued, was a grown man capable of making his own choices. And maybe, just maybe, he'd already started choosing her again. But the drama didn't stop there. Days later, whispers began to circulate, low at first, barely more than gossip. A pharmacy employee saw Taylor purchasing fertility supplements. Then, a leaked photo hit the tabloids. Taylor at the Los Angeles International Airport, wearing a loose trench coat, dark glasses, and clutching what looked unmistakably like a fertility tracking kit. The headline wrote itself, "Is Taylor trying to trap Ridge with a baby?" It would have been laughable if it weren't true. Sources close to the family confirmed that Taylor had, in fact, been exploring options related to fertility. Brooke, once again blindsided, was furious. Not just because Taylor had betrayed their supposed truce, but because she knew exactly what this meant. A baby changes everything. A child with Ridge doesn't just bond him to Taylor emotionally, it ties him to her permanently. And Brooke, who had spent years fighting for her place in Ridge's life, wasn't about to watch it all slip away because Taylor decided she wanted a second act. But the real earthquake hit when Deacon Sharp was spotted at the same airport just hours after. Taylor, the same Deacon who had a complicated history with both women. The same Deacon who once swore he was done with their tangled web of lies and passion. The same Deacon who, according to another leaked source, had been seen having coffee with Taylor just a few weeks prior. Looking anything but platonic, the pieces started clicking into place. If Taylor was pregnant and if Deacon was involved, then the child might not even be Ridge's. Or maybe, Taylor didn't know who the father was. The speculation exploded. Media outlets swarmed Forrester events. Paparazzi staked out the homes. Social media accounts lit up with theories. Who's the father? Is Taylor lying? Is this a ploy to steal Ridge back, or worse, destabilize the company? Brooke, determined to get answers, didn't wait for gossip to turn into fact. She demanded a paternity test. Taylor resisted, calling it invasive and premature. But the pressure only intensified. Ridge himself began to question what was happening. Did he want another child? Had Taylor manipulated him? Or had he willingly stepped back into her orbit without realizing what was at stake? Then came the ultimate betrayal. In a private moment, Ridge confronted Taylor about the rumors. Instead of answering clearly, she dodged. She claimed the baby, if there was one, was a blessing, and that the father wasn't the point. Ridge, confused and angry, demanded a test. Taylor finally relented. And when the results came in, they didn't just answer the question. They detonated a bomb. The child wasn't Ridge's. It was Deacon's. The fallout was immediate. Ridge, devastated and humiliated, felt manipulated. Brooke, ironically, felt vindicated. She had warned him. She had seen it coming. But the feeling didn't last. Because even as Ridge tried to distance himself, the damage was done. Taylor was pregnant. Deacon was involved. And now, the entire Forrester empire was tainted by yet another scandal. Deacon, for his part, seemed torn. On one hand, he claimed he had no idea Taylor had been trying to conceive. On the other, he didn't exactly deny their recent closeness. Some insiders said he had fallen for her again, quietly, away from the spotlight. Others believed he was just another pawn in Taylor's game to reclaim Ridge. And that when Ridge rejected her, she pivoted toward Deacon out of desperation. Whatever the truth, one thing was clear, this wasn't just about a baby. It was about legacy, power, revenge, and redemption. As the news spread, Forrester Creations' stock dipped. Buyers and brand ambassadors questioned their partnerships. Eric Forrester called an emergency board meeting. Steffi and Thomas were furious, at Taylor, at the media, and at the entire situation. They feared this would ruin the family name forever. Hope, caught in the middle, tried to keep the peace, but even she couldn't deny the chaos. In the weeks that followed, the war lines were redrawn. Brooke no longer needed to play nice. Her warnings had come true. She began positioning herself as the stabilizing force Forrester needed. All while keeping Ridge within reach. Taylor, now both a mother-to-be and a pariah, retreated from the public eye. But insiders said she wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. And Deacon? His motives remained murky. Was he ready to be a father again? Did he love Taylor? Or was he about to blow the lid off an even bigger secret? Rumors swirled that Taylor had kept one more shocking truth hidden. Something about the conception, the timing, or even the method. There were whispers of fertility treatments. Of a night neither man clearly remembered. Of manipulated circumstances that could unravel both Ridge and Deacon's futures in one swipe. The town of Los Angeles had seen scandals, affairs, betrayals, deaths and resurrections. But this was different. This was nuclear. Because when truth bends, relationships break. And in a world where every alliance is temporary and every love story a minefield, one pregnancy, just one, might be enough to destroy the Forrester dynasty from the inside out. And Taylor knew it. She counted on it. The bold and the beautiful. The DNA test that changed everything. Brooke's desperation, Ridge's betrayal, and Bridget's unthinkable involvement. There are few moments in Los Angeles that can bring the entire Forrester family to its knees. Few moments that can tear through the illusion of glamour, family, and loyalty that Forrester Creations pretends to stand for. But when Bridget Forrester stepped back into the center of the storm, agreeing once again to conduct a DNA test that would determine the paternity of Taylor's unborn child, everyone in the room knew history was about to repeat itself. Old wounds reopened, old rivalries reignited, and this time, the fallout would be worse than ever. Bridget had been hesitant to get involved. After all, she had seen what paternity tests had done to her family before. The lies, the betrayals, the heartbreak. She had sworn she would never be the one holding the envelope again. But Taylor insisted, Ridge demanded the truth, and Brooke wanted control. Bridget, torn between her duty as a doctor and her love for her family, finally agreed. She performed the test with professional detachment, but inside, she was terrified. She had lived through enough of her mother's chaos to know that the truth in this family is never just the truth. It's a weapon. The days leading up to the results were thick with tension. Brooke was restless, paranoid, replaying every moment in her mind. She clung to the idea that Taylor's pregnancy was nothing more than a manipulative stunt. She told herself Taylor was lying. That there must have been another man. That Ridge couldn't possibly be the father. Her entire identity, her entire relationship with Ridge, depended on that test proving Taylor wrong. But deep down, even she knew how fragile that hope was. Ridge, meanwhile, tried to act calm, but his silence was heavy. He had been drawn back to Taylor before. He had made mistakes before. And now, those mistakes were staring him in the face in the form of a paternity envelope sitting on Bridget's desk. When Bridget finally walked into the Forrester mansion with the results, the air turned electric. Everyone was there. Ridge, Taylor, Brooke, Steffi, Hope, and even Deacon, who stood quietly in the corner, watching the Forrester family's perfect image implode one more time. Brooke, unable to contain herself, demanded Bridget read the results immediately. Taylor looked composed, almost too calm. Ridge's jaw was tight. The room fell silent as Bridget unfolded the paper, her hands shaking slightly. She took a breath, and then, with the kind of heaviness that only comes when truth slices through illusion, she said the words no one wanted to hear. Ridge Forrester is the father. The silence that followed was unbearable. Brooke's face drained of color. Her lips trembled, but no sound came out. Taylor exhaled slowly, her eyes glistening with something between vindication and exhaustion. Ridge looked stunned, half relief, half horror, because even though the child was his, he knew what that meant for Brooke. For a moment, time froze. Then Brooke exploded. She accused Taylor of manipulation, of timing the test, of sleeping with Ridge just to destroy her life again. She turned to Ridge, screaming that he had betrayed her, that he always went back to Taylor no matter what promises he made. Ridge tried to explain, to calm her, but Brooke wasn't listening. She stormed out, her heels echoing down the hallway like gunshots. The next few days were chaos. The press caught wind of the scandal almost immediately. Headlines screamed about the Forrester family's latest paternity drama. Taylor tried to protect herself and her unborn child, but the gossip spread faster than she could contain it. Ridge tried to manage the fallout at Forrester Creations, but investors were nervous. Brooke refused to speak publicly, but behind closed doors, her rage was turning into something darker. She couldn't accept it, not this time, not after everything. She had fought too long, sacrificed too much, to lose Ridge again to the same woman who had haunted her for decades. Brooke's obsession grew by the hour. She started drinking again, pacing through her mansion late into the night, talking to herself about how everything could still be fixed. She convinced herself that the child was the problem. The baby was the chain binding Ridge to Taylor. Without that baby, Ridge would come back to her. Without that baby, Taylor would lose her leverage. Brooke's thoughts twisted into something desperate, something reckless. She knew it was wrong. She knew it was insane. But she couldn't stop herself. Love had turned into obsession, and obsession had turned into something darker still. When Brooke showed up at the hospital pretending to want to check on Taylor, Bridget immediately grew suspicious. She had seen that look in her mother's eyes before, the combination of jealousy, fear, and denial. Brooke asked too many questions about Taylor's pregnancy, about her health, about her appointments. Bridget tried to deflect, but Brooke was relentless. She started researching procedures, talking to doctors, asking about options that weren't hers to ask about. When Bridget confronted her, Brooke snapped. She claimed she was just worried about the baby's health, about the strain on Taylor. But her words didn't match her tone. Her eyes were wild, her smile too tight. Bridget warned her mother to stay away, to let things be. But Brooke had already made up her mind. Late one night, Brooke returned to the hospital. She had called in favors, used her influence, charmed her way past security. She told herself she wasn't going to do anything drastic. She just wanted to talk to Taylor, to make her see reason, to convince her to end the pregnancy for everyone's sake. But when she entered Taylor's room and saw her sleeping, one hand resting protectively on her stomach, Brooke's anger surged. All she could see was everything she had lost. Every moment Ridge had chosen Taylor. Every time she had been left behind. She whispered through clenched teeth that it should have been her. That Ridge belonged with her. That Taylor had stolen enough. Her hand hovered over the tray of medical instruments nearby. For a moment, she froze, staring at herself in the reflection of the glass window. What was she doing? How had she become this person? Before anything could happen, Bridget appeared in the doorway. She had followed her mother, knowing something was wrong. Her voice was calm but firm as she told Brooke to step away. Brooke tried to explain, to justify, but Bridget wouldn't hear it. This isn't love anymore, Bridget said quietly. It's madness. Brooke broke down then, sobbing, saying she just wanted Ridge back, that she couldn't live without him. Bridget held her mother as she cried, torn between pity and disgust. She knew Brooke's pain was real, but she also knew it had crossed a line. The next morning, Bridget made sure security was tightened. Taylor never knew how close she came to tragedy that night. But secrets never stay buried for long in this town. Word spread that Brooke had been at the hospital. Whispers turned into accusations. Ridge confronted her, demanding to know what she had been thinking. Brooke tried to twist the story, saying she had just gone to check on Taylor. But Ridge wasn't buying it. He had seen that kind of obsession before, and this time, it scared him. He told her it was over, that whatever love they had left had been poisoned beyond repair. Brooke begged him to stay. But Ridge walked out, leaving her alone in the same house where they had shared decades of passion and heartbreak. Taylor, meanwhile, tried to move forward with her pregnancy, but she couldn't escape the tension. The press wouldn't let go of the story. Brooke's name was everywhere, painted as the unhinged ex-lover who couldn't handle reality. Bridget tried to shield her mother from the worst of it, but Brooke seemed to spiral further. Some nights she would show up at the Forrester estate uninvited, standing outside Ridge's window, whispering his name. Other nights she would call Deacon, slurring her words, begging him to help her fix things. Deacon, caught between guilt and frustration, finally told her she needed help. But Brooke didn't want help. She wanted revenge. And yet, amid all the chaos, Bridget was the one left carrying the weight of the truth. She had been the one to reveal the DNA results that destroyed her mother's life, again. She had been the one to stop Brooke from doing the unthinkable. And now, she was the one trying to keep the family from completely falling apart. But even she knew this was only the beginning. Because in Los Angeles, secrets never stay buried. Taylor's pregnancy, Ridge's guilt, Brooke's instability, these were just sparks waiting to ignite a much larger fire. The bold and the beautiful has never shied away from scandal, but this time, it's different. This time, the betrayal cuts deeper. The love story that defined decades has turned toxic beyond repair. The baby that should have brought new life has instead become a weapon. A curse. A mirror reflecting everything the Forresters have become. Powerful, broken, and dangerous. And as Brooke stares at her reflection, eyes red and hollow, one thing is clear, she's not done. Not by a long shot. Because in her mind, Ridge still belongs to her. And if she can't have him, no one can.